handle the truth.
I'll be back.
It's alive!
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
Hi, this is Joe, and this is the FilmJoe podcast, where film talk happens.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hi, I'm Joe, your host, and I'm here with Carlo,
the co-host of the show,
the one and only.
the legendary.
And the legendary. And welcome to the podcast where we talk about films, filmmakers, trends, the good, the bad, and the not so bad, all in the spirit and for the love of film. So this week, we're going to talk about the parody film, the Spoofy Movie.
a classic, a favorite of mine, if I may.
Yeah, these films were not a hard watch at all.
Oh, easy.
I mean, I think collectively these three films we've watched maybe like 50 times each or something.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's some good stuff coming up. And just a reminder, we're not professional critics, so don't expect...
You could say we're just average Joes.
Yeah, so here we go with these average Joe's critics. And this, as we've mentioned before, we'll be giving these films a rating, 1 to 10.
Yes.
And in this, in honor of one of our films, Young Frankenstein, it is 1 out of 10 Igors. or is it
Igors.
Frankenstein?
Isn't it Frankenstein?
Is Frankenstein. All right. So, and again, be advised that we do give out spoilers. So if you haven't seen these films and we spoil it for you, it's on you.
Correct. At this point, you should have seen these movies. They're classics. They are old enough so you should know about them, and you should have watched them by now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a crime not to have watched these.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a sense of humor, well, then we
Oh, well then, okay. Well, that's on you, though.
Right.
And you're just missing out on a good chunk of life.
Right.
Yes.
So, but before anything, it's time for... News Bits. So we got some interesting stuff here in the News Bits department.
News.
Now, I'm not a big fan of these. I know you may have seen maybe 1 or 2 of these films, but the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, I love the sci-fi. Dude, okay, my childhood was filled with sci-fi movies.
Okay.
Like the cult classics. There was one that was like a robotic jaguar or something like that.
Oh, my God. Well, you're gonna love this.
Okay, shoot.
Celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Sharknado films, they will be doing an all-day marathon of all 6 Sharknado movies. The marathon is set to begin at 12 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday, July 18th. I know you're going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you ever seen Sharknado?
I saw like 10 minutes of one, and I had to just...
The effects are horrible. You're thinking, how is this even possible? But damn it, it's fun, man.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the gist in these films. They're just goofy and fun, and they obviously don't take themselves seriously.
Not at all.
Far
Not
from.
even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. So with that said, mark your calendars for that one. Also in the news, James Cameron. Okay, get this.
Oh, a little bit more serious now. Okay.
Well, at least he thinks so. James Cameron says that he will never, ever make a movie about OceanGate or the implosion of a Titan submersible that left 5 dead. Okay, I get it, right?
Sure.
Yeah, you just got to wait about 80 years to make a film about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Then it'll be comedy.
You're right. I mean, Titanic, right?
Mm.
I mean, it was too soon, a couple of years. He had to wait 80 years. So maybe 80 years from now, it'll be okay. So also premiering at this year's San Diego Comic-Con, they're going to release a teaser trailer for the new Red Sonja film. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Red Sonja.
No.
She was a female barbarian warrior in the Conan universe.
Sold.
Yes. Now, there was a Red Sonja film back in the 80s with Brigitte Nielsen, the tall blonde actress who was married to Stallone at one point. And she was a villain in Beverly Hills Cop 2. She was Drago's wife.
Okay. Oh, she's intimidating. She's an intimidating lady.
Oh, yeah. Well, she was the original Red Sonja.
Mm.
And so, but now they're going to do a new one. And this has been in the works for a long time. I believe Robert Rodriguez was attached to it at one time.
Oh, trip out.
And it just kind of fell through the cracks. But finally, it's getting made. And also, finally, on the news, SAG-AFTRA, which is the Actors Union, they just joined in on the strike with the writers.
Mm.
And
The Writers Guild of America.
right, the WGA. So this is going to screw up any current production in Hollywood.
Yeah, everything is pretty much delayed.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to the story. On one hand, the studios are like, this is the worst possible time that a strike can go down.
Mhm.
The industry's barely trying to recuperate from multiple elements such as COVID and things along that nature.
Mhm.
But, the writers and the actors, they also have their issue, which I kind of have to agree with, which is the issue of AI. Yeah, you just hit the mic.
I did hit the mic.
With artificial intelligence, AI programs creating screenplays and so forth, voices.
You know what's funny? I was thinking about that the other day. I was thinking, because I've seen a lot of people making huge money with ChatGPT.
Right.
They like type in the commands to the system, and it says, write me an introduction email to a big company stating their tax revenue or their revenue in general, and email it to them, and then prompt me the script, and then I'll email it to them as if I wrote that, and then they can hire me on as an advisor or something, and have ChatGPT write all of my reports or something.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, dude, we're at the point where we don't even need to try.
I mean, it's going to get to the point where you don't even have to squat to take a shit because a computer's going to do it for you.
It's just gonna suck it out your ass.
Yeah. These AI programs are just making people dumber and stupider.
Mark my words, we will end up like Wall-E.
Oh, absolutely.
We will get there.
We're going to depend on computers to do everything for us and programs. And it's pretty sad because I'm a purist. A screenplay written by a human being or multiple human beings, as is the case with a lot of scripts in Hollywood, is the human element.
Oh, yeah.
The human soul. A screenplay written by an AI computer, there is no soul.
Mm.
I mean, it may be fun and good or whatever, but it will lack that soul. And I think we are headed towards a soulless world in the world of arts. So on that somber note, let's go on to what's next.
Your watch report, sir. What have you seen? What have you watched? What have I watched? What the hell have I watched?
Yeah.
You go first. You go first. I need to remember what the hell I've seen.
Okay. Well, I recently just binge watched the entire season of Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan on Prime.
Ooh, how is that?
Fantastic. It's the final season, and they wrapped it up really beautifully. And what's great about these, I mean, we talked about this briefly about streaming shows, how when a season ends, it takes about a year for the next season, and you kind of lose interest.
And you're like, I don't even remember who are
Right.
the characters.
Well, in this case, Jack Ryan, each season is a self-contained story, like a novel.
Mm.
It's a 6 or 8 hour movie split up into episodes. So if you missed season 2, you can watch season 3 because it has nothing to do. I mean, except the common characters and some generalities.
Deborah might have died in the last season. You're thinking, oh, where's Deborah? But
Right, exactly. So it works. Amazon Prime, they've been doing that. They have a few shows like that. They have the Terminal List with Chris Pratt.
Mm.
And that's the second season's in production. Jack Reacher, another one, also based on one novel, the entire season. So they're easy to get to. They're very
digestible.
Adjustable.
Digestible.
Yeah, they're very digestible.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank
That's
you.
a two-syllable word.
That was very impressive. But that's basically what I watched this entire week was the Jack Ryan series. And again, I highly recommend it. What about yourself?
You know what's funny? So here's the thing. I haven't seen anything. And here's why. I just installed a TV mount in my room. You know this.
Oh, the wall mount?
The wall mount, because we got a bigger TV. I got a bigger TV, and it doesn't fit where it was supposed to.
Right.
So I had to get a wall mount. That thing was a pain to install, man. I had to take off the pegs, and I had to put on the pegs. And then I realized I drilled it too high and that the TV was bumping into the ceiling.
Oh.
So then I had to take off all the mounts that I just put on, put it back. It was a pain. I bought 2 mounts. The first one did not fit because the studs are too far apart, and the one that I bought first, it's too
Narrow.
It's too narrow.
Oh.
So then I had to go back to Target, return that one, go to Best Buy. Best Buy, please sponsor me. I saw a lot of cool things in your store. And then buy this bigger mount because it was just too big and it needed a wider area to cover. So now that I have my new TV, now I can watch something, and I will keep you guys updated on what the hell I watched next week
Okay.
on my new TV.
Wall-mounted TV. And by the way,
Wall-mounted
to your
TV.
credit, it came out really, really well.
Yeah, thank you.
So when I get my wall mount, you can...
You can install it yourself.
Wow.
Let me finish that sentence for you. You can help yourself. Also, I got a new drill, so that's fun.
Okay. So with that being said, all right. So what do you say we begin this episode?
I say.
All right. We're going with the spoofy film, the parody film. So our first film, this is one of my favorites, because I think they're all my favorites. It's Laughter at 80,000 Feet in the Certified Classic.
Captain, how soon can you land?
I can't tell.
You can tell me I'm a doctor.
No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Or can't you take a guess?
Well, not for another 2 hours.
You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
No. I mean, we can't land for another 2 hours. Fog has closed down everything this side of the mountains. We've got to get through to Chicago.
After the crew becomes sick with food poisoning, a neurotic ex-fighter pilot must land a commercial airplane full of passengers safely. The film we're talking about is Airplane from 1980, directed by Jim Abrams, David Zucker, and Jerry Zucker. The film stars Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, Leslie Nielsen, and Lloyd Bridges. Okay, this is one I can watch over and over again.
Easy.
I mean, the jokes land when they need to, and even some of the corny ones, you go okay, but
I have a drinking problem.
and he splashes the drink on the. Oh my God!
You know what I will say though? All of the movies that we're covering right now, all three of them, they're timeless.
Yes,
I found them funny, and you found them funny. Being that we're
different generations. Yeah.
Your dad would find this funny, right?
No, he does not like silly comedies.
Okay, well your mom would.
My mom would love
Your
it.
mom would love them.
My dad likes Chuck Norris, Clint Eastwood, and stuff like that.
Fair, but the point I'm trying to make is that they're timeless. They're not like slapstick, like
Right.
making jokes about like let's say actors from the 80s. I wouldn't get it. That wasn't my time
Yeah,
period.
it makes very few pop cultural references.
There you go. That was
Very few. And that's important because that will date a movie and get, if you got too much of that, then later generations will be like, whoa, oh, I don't get it. But this one has very little of that. And again, what I love about this is that almost every frame of this fucking movie is jam-packed with a joke, whether it's verbal or it's visual. I mean, you got stuff happening in the foreground, actors, characters interacting, and then you have something happening in the background.
Yeah.
Or if something's not happening in the background, something's written on the wall or there's a poster. I mean, you really got to stay focused and catch all these things. I mean, you'll miss a bunch of them. However, like I said, some that don't hit, like I said, are because they're elements of the time. There's a couple in there that are like, not very relevant.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was a couple you're like, okay, I don't get it, but it sounds funny.
Yeah. It sounds like I cracked a joke back in the day.
Yeah. But one thing that really, upon the rewatch, is that, oh my God, this is so politically incorrect. You got the race jokes. You got when the two black guys on the plane, they're speaking jive, and then you got the white lady coming there because nobody understands them. They say, yo, baby, this is blah, 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 blah. And they're like, I'm sorry, I don't speak jive. And then the white lady, I'm sorry, I can speak jive. Oh, man.
And then, oh my God, that shit was so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would, the extreme woke person would probably go into a coma.
Oh, yeah.
Watching this. They'd want it canceled so much if they really watched it.
But you know what, man? That's what makes it so funny.
Well, it's unbridled. It's unfiltered.
Yeah.
And,
how people can take a joke and laugh at it. That's the type of humor I like.
Well, you sit there, you listen to the joke, you go, yeah, I know that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But fuck, it's funny.
It's funny, man.
And that's fine. I mean, so long as we're able to recognize and understand that what was said, what was done, what was presented was not correct. They know it's not correct, but it's all in the spirit of humor.
Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of people nowadays don't have, a sense of humor.
Yeah. Like if you tell me a really funny Mexican joke and you're not Mexican, I'ma still laugh. 'Cause
If it's funny?
if I find it funny, I'ma laugh.
Right.
But if you're just saying it to be offensive, then you're probably gonna get a fist in your mouth.
Right. You make an offensive, mean-spirited comment. That's one thing. But here's a joke. You know?
You funny.
Absolutely. Another thing that made this movie work was that they took an approach with this. If you look at the entire cast or the bulk of the primary cast, they're not comedians. And that was important. That was David Zucker and Jerry Zucker's approach was that, yeah, it's a funny movie. We can get comedians. We can get funny people, but that's obvious. What about get serious actors and make them say and do stupid shit and have them act out seriously? You got the cast like Lloyd Bridges, who was a dramatic actor back in the 60s and the 70s. Peter Graves from the original Mission Impossible. He always did serious stuff. And Leslie Nielsen, of course, of the Naked Gun series.
Yeah.
You only know him as the goofy, funny, satirical parody actor, but he was a serious actor before. And so this cast was assembled based on, let's get serious actors, tell them, act this out seriously. This is a stupid line.
But just say it with,
with seriousness, you know? Like the famous line, my favorite is where he goes, surely.
Can I do the setup? Can I do the setup?
Okay, do the setup.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. I mean, and the way he delivers it is as if he were doing a dramatic series. And I think that was genius of the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams to approach it this way. Don't try to be funny, which is something that these other films that we may cover, they do. They try to be funny. And it works, but not like this in Airplane. Robert Hayes, who plays our main character, the pilot, he also did some serious work before this. And he was fantastic. The entire cast, I mean, I love it. And Leslie Nielsen, again, that was his first, who played, Don't Call Me Shirley and the Naked Gun films. That was his first ever comedy role.
Huh. And he nailed it. But granted, he was serious like 90% of the time, but that's what gives him that, like, that extra humor.
Yeah, I loved it. It's so deadpan. And he was happy to take the role because he didn't want to continue taking roles like these elderly grandfathers or uncles. He was already up there in age.
Yeah.
And history was made with Leslie Nielsen. Did you know, this interesting little factoid, you know the policy of onboard film movies for airplanes. If you get on an airplane, they have a movie.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
They can't show airplane disaster films.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
Makes sense. That's just a bad taste.
And obviously Airplane is one of them.
Right.
That you can't show on an airplane. Except for Aero Mexico. They were the only airline to buy this movie for the in-flight entertainment.
Leave it to Mexicans, man.
Yeah.
Leave it to the Mexicans.
Oh, man. What's also interesting is that a lot of people think that this is a parody of the disaster films of the 70s, like Airport. Airport 75, Airport 77, and those kind of films. It is inspired by those, but it's actually more inspired by a film that came out in 1957 called 0 Hour. The plot is identical. Okay, and here's the kicker, is that they wanted to do a parody of that type of film.
Okay.
Influenced, of course, by the 70s disaster airport films, right? Well, when they finished the script, it was too damn close to the original script. Even some of the dialogue and the lines were exact. That they're like, you know what? We're going to fucking get sued for copyright infringement.
Because too much of this is the same.
And they went to them and said, hey, we want permission to do this and so forth. And then they were denied. So they said, fuck it. So they just bought the rights instead of, they bought the film, 0 Hour. And they just remade it as a comedy. And if you look online on YouTube, you'll see side-by-side comparisons of some of the scenes. The lines are identical. And it's a pretty shitty movie. I've seen it.
Hey, can we make this movie? No. Oh, fuck it. We'll just buy your movie then.
Right, exactly. And that's what they did. Also, one of my favorite sequences in that was the autopilot.
The autopilot?
Oh, gosh. I mean...
He's deflating. Where's his tube?
Right under his buckle. And yeah, for those of you who have seen this film, you know what we're talking about. And, with the cigarettes.
Yeah,
after.
yeah. You gotta have the cigarette after, man.
Right. And but ultimately, the original blow up doll of Otto the pilot was left in Jerry Zucker's garage for many years, and they came across it, I guess, cleaning out the garage, and it was already disintegrating. And that's too bad. That's a piece of
that's memories right there.
Yeah,
or history.
Well, yeah, exactly. And also, to further the element of drama, of seriousness, right? Elmer Bernstein, who's a great composer who did a lot of dramatic scores. He also worked a lot with John Landis, American Werewolf in London, stuff like that. But he's a great composer. He did the score for this, and he was approached to do us a serious score, nothing silly. This is dead core.
It's a movie.
It's a serious film. But the movie was a huge hit. I mean, really,
rightfully so.
There was only maybe a couple of films to that point that were considered parody or spoofs, but really wasn't a thing. And so this is, I guess you could say, one of the first big ones to really establish that genre. And it did really, really well. The first 2 days, the movie's gross was covered in just the first 2 days of release.
Oof.
So it did well. So the budget on this was about $3.5 million, which is about $13 million today.
Okay.
That's cheap. That's a low budget movie.
Yeah.
The box office, $171 million then, which is about $633 million today.
That's a hit right there.
It was
that
huge.
Is a hit.
I don't think the directors and the producers, they didn't expect that. I mean, they were blown away. They really were. They're like, are they watching the same movie we made?
Like, is this adding up?
Right. And it was received very well critically. Roger Ebert, the Chicago Sun-Times, he basically said that Airplane, it was a sophomoric, obvious, predictable, corny, and quite often very funny. And he said the reason why it was funny was because it was sophomoric, predictable, and corny. So he really enjoyed it. He gave it a really positive review. Currently, IMDb, it's sitting at a 7.7. Metacritic it currently has it at a 78% out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes critic score is 97% certified fresh. Audience score 89%. And on Letterboxd, it sits at a 3.8 out of 5. So
that's pretty good. Yeah.
To say this movie is loved is an understatement. But, overall, to me, the film works because, again, like I said earlier, it tries very hard. It doesn't pull punches. It tries hard to fucking make you laugh. It tries to be super funny. And it's kind of like, okay, we're going to throw 50 jokes at you. If 10 land, we got a success.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They spitball it. And you know what? It's hit, miss, hit, miss, and so forth. That it has you going throughout the film. And it's evenly spaced and evenly structured, that the laughs are well dispersed. I mean, because there's so many. It's like, it's almost after they were filming, like, hey, wouldn't this be funny? Fuck it, throw it in.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And the film really, really is. And it's not only that, it's a great script, the music, the plot is a great plot. Set against, a good plot with stupidity.
Yeah.
And just, a masterpiece of comedy, in my opinion. As far as sequels and remakes, the directing duo, or the trio, Abrams, Zucker, and Zucker, they were obviously approached by Paramount to say, hey, wow.
Sequel.
Let's do it. And they're like, nope.
Good.
They're like, you know what? We did everything we had to do. We said what we had to say.
Leave it at that.
Leave it at that. But studio said, okay. And they did it anyway.
Of course.
Without them.
Of course.
And have you seen the sequel?
I haven't seen the sequel.
It's not bad. It has to do with a space shuttle this time.
Okay.
And it's not bad. William Shatner, Mr. Captain Kirk, is in it.
Okay.
It has some laughs, but it doesn't have, and it's not a bad film in my opinion, but it doesn't have the same classic cult status as the first. Airplane 3 came very close to happening. Very close. But there was a few things, that kind of brought it down, was that at that point it was ready, because Airplane 2 did very well. So Airplane 3 was a no-brainer. But production costs went up, cast, basically it was not a cheap film to make anymore.
Right.
And based on the numbers of how much the second one cost versus how much it made, it was kind of a decline. They said a third one would have just been a risk.
Right.
And thank goodness they didn't.
The second one is kind of like,
Yeah.
The third one?
I'm glad they didn't. I love the first one. I kind of dig the second. So now for our ratings.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So film is filled with corny gags that almost always hit the mark. Never gets old. Great cast. Great setup. To me, this is an 8 out of 10 Igors.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take? What is your rating?
One of my favorite characters from the movie is the guy who he's in the airport command post thingy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the hell it's called, but it's the tower, the control tower.
Control tower.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's in the control tower, and he'll just pop up for like a split second. Hey, what can you make of this? I can make a bird. I can make a plane.
Oh, he was great.
Oh my God, he was steal the show anytime he was on screen.
Yeah, and he was kind of over the top, but it worked.
But it worked. So he was one of my favorites. The movie overall, absolutely loved it. First time I saw it with you guys, great. Laughed, chuckled, hurt a little bit from chuckling too much.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. That's why I also give it an 8 out of 10 Igors.
All right. We're right on the same page there.
Mm-hmm.
So now we move on to our next film. So this next film could be one of the earliest in the spoof genres.
Mm.
It's a spoof. It's a sequel. It's hilarious.
Werewolf.
Werewolf?
There. What? There, wolf. There, castle.
Why are you talking that way?
I thought you wanted to.
No, I don't want to.
An American grandson of the infamous scientist struggling to prove that his grandfather was not as insane as people believe is invited to Transylvania, where he discovers the process that reanimates a dead body. We are, of course, talking about the 1974 film directed by Mel Brooks, Young Frankenstein.
All right. Yeah, outstanding. This is one that...
Carlos did the intro because Joe took 5 times.
So, aside from that, so the film stars, it has an amazing cast.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get a more perfect cast. Gene Wilder, Terry Garr, Marty Feldman, Peter Boyle, Cloris Leachman, Kenneth Mars, and the beautiful and hilarious Madeline Kahn. I discovered this film when I was, let me see, it came out of 74. So it was about 76 that I saw it. I was, about, 8 years old. And it was the funniest fucking movie I'd ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And, years later passed, and I thought, maybe I thought it was funny because I was a little kid.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a little kid, everything is funny.
Yeah, a fart will make you laugh
a
lot. It still does, actually. But I saw it later on in years, and oh my God, the movie is just a perfect mixture of comedy and of class and of storytelling. It's just an amazing film.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the first time you seen it?
Oh my! The first time I saw it was actually in school because a teacher was like, "You know what, guys? We're closer to the end of the semester. We've done really well. Do you guys want to watch a movie?" And I was like, everybody's like, "Yeah, oh my God, yeah!" And he was telling us the concept. He was like, "Well, this movie was already with color, where it was the color era, but when they decided to make it, they made it in black and white." And immediately I was like, Young Frankenstein. And he was like, Carlos, shut up. Shut up, Carlos. Yeah, because I remember I think it was the week before you were telling me about this. You were telling me about it. And I was like, oh, okay. It was fresh in my head.
That's what it's like, hey, it's not my fault. Like, my dad's a film geek,
Exactly, man.
But it's just, to me, this is just my take in the sense that it's the funniest movie ever made.
Yeah.
And they're the gags, the jokes, and the bulk of the jokes, they're all verbal,
mm-hmm.
and they're timed to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're just perfectly timed and delivered and executed. I mean, Marty Feldman, who plays Igor with the Google eyes, I mean, his dialogue, the way he delivers was just complete perfection and professionalism. Terry Garr, super sexy, super cute, super dumb,
mm-hmm.
and goofy. You buy into it, and of course the legendary, the late great Gene Wilder. he was at.
There would never be another one of him.
Never. That's why this movie can never ever be made. Remade. So I don't think there was one flawed performance in this film. Overall. I mean, tell me, how many times have you heard those jokes in the film? A gazillion times.
Yeah.
Do they still make you laugh?
Every single time.
And you see them coming.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just so well done. It's not just what's said, it's how it's said, how it's delivered. And I think that just makes the film just beautiful.
The greatest thing ever.
Yeah. So when Mel Brooks was working, preparing the film, he discovered that there was this, it was a prop master from the 30s. His name was Ken Strickfaden. He had made the original elaborate electrical machinery for the lab for the original 1930s Frankenstein. And he found out that he still had, he wanted to bring him in to help him, design it, but he found out that he still had some of the original electrical equipment.
Oh, trip out.
And so he immediately said, well, I got to use them for the film.
I mean, have to. If you're doing the parody version of Frankenstein, might as well make it look exactly
and
the
authentic.
same. Exactly.
And Mel Brooks gave Ken film credit for props.
Oh,
the film,
nice.
which he didn't get for the original Frankenstein.
What?
Yeah, he didn't get screen credit for
Why?
it. It's a different era, And so he actually got the credit that he really deserved for his amazing designs and work.
Imagine if for the credits they put in Young Frankenstein and Frankenstein.
That would have been nice.
That would have been a nice little touch.
That would have. Also, one thing that really worked on the film that made it really just an amazing piece of filmmaking was that the hump on Igor's back, it keeps shifting.
Every single shift. Yeah.
That was not in the script. Marty Feldman, who plays Igor, he would just to fuck around with everybody. See if they would notice. He would shift the hump from the left to the right, and nobody would notice. And then he would shift it back and forth until finally somebody figured it out and they thought it was hilarious.
And kept it in.
And they kept it in. Just like a bunch of stuff in this film. They kind of like ad-libbed a lot of stuff. But that was one thing that that was him. That was all him.
Mm-hmm.
For example.
Well, I mean, the first time that's shown in the movie is like, isn't that on the
other? Yeah.
What are you talking about? Never mind.
Right. And it was a great sight gag. Also, when Gene Wilder leans in to kiss Madeline Kahn, and she goes, "No tongues." That was ad-libbed on the spot, right there. And I think it was that genuine fun that they were having. Mel Brooks's ability to just make go with what was let the actors ad-lib and let them improvise as they went.
Yeah.
In because these were genuinely funny and talented people, and he gave them that faith.
It's like, we know you can do it, so go ahead.
Now, if you're familiar with Mel Brooks's work, he always he did quite a few films before that. He would write, direct, and star in all of his films. And so it was Gene Wilder who approached Mel Brooks with this concept. He wrote the script.
Oh, trip out. Okay.
Yeah. This was not written by Mel Brooks. Of course, Mel Brooks also, he worked with him on the script and everything, but it was Gene Wilder. So Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks came to the agreement, let's do this. Well, the problem is that Mel Brooks likes to be in all of his films.
Right.
Gene Wilder said, we can do this on one condition, that you're not in the film.
Okay.
And Mel Brooks was like, he goes, no, because it would kind of like take the audience out of it if they see you in it. It's
right.
a Mel Brooks film starring Mel Brooks. We want to immerse the audience in our story. So they went with that, and Mel Brooks agreed, kind of. Do you remember the scene where they're playing darts with Kenneth Mars with the wooden hand?
Yeah.
And they're throwing darts, and then some darts go out the window?
Yeah.
And you hear the tires, and you hear the cat scream?
Yeah.
That was Mel Brooks.
The cat?
The cat. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be in this film one
way or another.
But Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder were very close friends. And while they were working on the film, there was a couple things that really they didn't agree on. They agreed on, and they had a couple of arguments along the way and disagreements. But there was one night that they were working on it, and they got into a huge argument and yelling and screaming, and pissed off. It was at Gene Wilder's apartment that Mel Brooks said, fuck this. And he rushed out the door. He took off. So there's Gene Wilder in his apartment by himself trying to figure out, okay, he got pissed. We'll figure this out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a little while later, he gets a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
It was Mel Brooks.
Right.
And he's like, oh, hey, Mel, what's going on?
Hey.
Yeah, he goes, yo, who the hell was that madman you had in your house just now? I could hear the yelling and the screaming all the way down over here. I mean, you should never let these crazy people in your house. Did you know that? That could be very dangerous. And he hangs up. That was Mel Brooks' way of apologizing.
Hey, bud.
Yeah.
Sorry, we just kind of had a yelling fight.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow.
But you know what? They had a great time making the film. In fact, you know, especially Mel Brooks. I mean, they were just having a blast. That production was coming close to being done.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, man, we only got a couple more days. So Mel Brooks wrote a few extra scenes to keep going.
Like to make the fun keep lasting.
Yeah,
you know,
as much as they could. But, you know, all that fun and joy and everything in the film, you could see it on the screen that everybody was just having a great time. Everybody loved working with each other. Madeline Kahn, rest her, you know, God rest her soul. She was amazing. She was beautiful. She had an amazing singing voice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There was one scene in there where she,
towards the end of the movie where she
goes,
with Frankenstein.
She has sex with Frankenstein, and afterwards she breaks out into this song, and and she had a beautiful voice. But you know, she'd always been this kind of actress that didn't rely on her looks.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about comedy, and she was great. I mean, again, props all across, so, you know, the entire cast.
Mm-hmm.
The budget at the time for this film, it was about $2.8 million. Again, it was on the low end, which is about $17 million today.
Low.
I mean, well, yeah, about $17 million. The box office, however, was $86.2 million, which is about $508 million today.
Damn.
The movie, so if you get a movie now, it costs $17 million to make, it grossed $508 million.
That's a huge payout as well, man.
Yeah. I mean, it did so well. It did well across the board. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave it 4 stars.
Easy.
4 stars.
Easy, man.
He called it the most, is Mel Brooks' most disciplined and visually inventive film. And it also happens to be funny. I mean, you can't. IMDb, it's sitting at an 8.0. Metacritic, 83% out of 100. Rotten Tomatoes score, certified fresh at 94%.
Mm-hmm.
And Letterboxd has it at about 4 or 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, it's pretty warranted, honestly. This movie, watching it 10 years from now, it will still hold up.
It definitely does.
It will still have its sense of humor.
Well, you compare, you know, in the overall, this film to, say, Airplane and the other film we're going to do, they do implement, those other 2 films, they implement pop culture references of the time, whether it's a lot or a little bit. Mm-hmm. This one, there is none.
No.
It relies solely on great comedic acting and writing and situations and dialogue.
Yeah.
Sight gags, verbal gags, the whole 9 yards. It's just one big fest of silliness. And it works. You know, and the fact that they went with black and white, which I'm sure 20th Century Fox was not very
100% on, yeah.
But it
adds to the film, for sure.
It really does. And, you know, what I love about it does feel like a sequel to Frankenstein, the original. In fact, you should, you know, I recommend this. Watch the original Frankenstein and then watch this.
Mm-hmm. See, here's my whole thing. I don't want to watch the original Frankenstein, not because I don't think it's a good movie, just simply because I think I'll just burst out laughing. Because I've seen Young Frankenstein, but I've never seen Frankenstein.
Well, you know, I saw the original Frankenstein a few years ago. Incredibly wonderful film. It's a great film, a masterpiece. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, there's parts in there where it just cracked me up. Like, remember when Igor is looking for the brain and he gets scared?
Yeah.
The original is very much structured the same way. and it's supposed to be a scary, creepy scene, and I was laughing. Yeah. But you know what? Watch it nonetheless. It is pretty good. And also, another quick tidbit on this. What is the most memorable scene in the film?
Which of the many?
Which of the many? Well, putting on the Ritz.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Which Peter Boyle, when they were getting ready to film this scene, they didn't know what the monster was supposed to say or sound like. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, I guess during rehearsal they're getting ready for it. And Peter Boyle's like, okay, and this is where you sing "Putting on the Ritz," and that's where he goes, and everybody just lost their shit and go, fuck, that's
it.
And that was Peter Boyle's contribution.
Yeah.
As Frankenstein. But interestingly enough, it was not a scene that Mel Brooks wanted.
Mm-hmm.
He did not want that scene at all. He thought it was stupid. It would screw up the continuity of the film, and he didn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
And he put his foot down. So he came to an agreement with Gene Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll film it, but doesn't mean I'm going to put it in.
Mm. We're just going to test it out.
And the audience reaction was off the charts. And
everybody, oh my God, it's one of the favorite. It's
just
the funniest shit.
Yeah. Now, thank goodness this film did not get any remakes.
No, this should never be remade
or sequel.
No.
There was a very popular Broadway musical adaptation that
Mm-hmm.
ran for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
From 2007 to 2017, and it did well. I don't think I'd be interested. I don't know.
I don't know, as a musical,
Gene Wilder or Peter Boyle, Madeline. That's the cast.
Yeah.
So our ratings, for me, it's the comedy of its most brilliance, funny, silly, very smart. The cast is one for the ages. Everything from the cinematography to the script, comedic perfection. To me, this is a 10 out of 10 Igors.
Oof.
Yes.
Now that's a score right there.
Yes. You can't give it anything less.
No.
Well, what about you?
No, so here's my thing. This is the funniest movie I've ever seen. Had me cracking up left and right. All the humor, some of it was slapstick, some of it was just verbal. Abby Normal,
Oh.
Sedative, Werewolf. You can quote these left and right. And if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I have zero issues with this movie. Everything was funny.
It's perfect.
It's a perfect film. This is a 10 out of 10 Igors.
Agreed. Wow, we're 2 for 2 so far.
No kidding.
All right. So let's move on to our last film. So this one is basically about a masked serial killer who's on the loose, killing dumb and unsuspecting teenagers with tons of laughs. It's the return of the spoof film with a spoof on the return of the slasher film.
Mm.
Hello?
Want to have a little fun?
Who's this?
Tell me your name and I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
What's that noise?
Oops. I farted. I didn't think you would hear me.
No, that popping noise.
Oh, I'm making popcorn. I'm getting ready to watch a video.
A year after disposing of a body of a man they accidentally killed, a group of dumb teenagers are stalked by a bumbling serial killer. The film we're talking about is Scary Movie from 2000, directed by Damon Wayans. The film stars Anna Faris, John Abrams, Marlon Wayans, and Carmen Electra. So this is more up your alley because this was your generation.
Yeah, this one is my generation. What year was this?
2000.
Oh, okay.
Well,
kind of.
Well, you were born around, yeah. So
I was born around there.
Yeah.
99, baby. Woo.
There you go. So what was your take?
So I watched this not when it came out, but when I was kind of like a teenager-ish
On
age.
DVD?
Yeah, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever the hell was on.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I love the scary movies. I love most of the scary movies. I love 1, 2, 3. All of them are good. 4 has some comedy in there, but it really dies off. And 5 was a horrendous piece of shit that should have never been made.
Right. I agree. I went as far as the third one.
Yeah. Up to the third, great times.
Yeah. And some really funny stuff. To me, it was a nice mashup, because they kind of go here and there with different horror tropes, but it's mashup of I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm sure they were sitting there at the writer's table go, well, should we do Scream or should we do, let's do both.
Let's do both. Why not?
And it works.
Yeah.
They mash them up nice. And here's another one, like Airplane. If done today, it would never get made.
No.
Or
it would get canceled before it even goes into production.
Well, like I said, if Airplane would put a woke person into a coma, this would just put him into permanent cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
Because there's some stuff in here that I'm like, I'm very open-minded. I don't give a shit about all that stuff. To me, a laugh is a laugh. But there was a couple parts that had me going, did they go there? Did they?
Yeah.
The whole, I'm not gay, I am gay. I mean, hilarious stuff, but it would never pass, the radar of today's audiences. But it's just a classic. I loved it. It's
Well, I mean, the first day that you said, "Oh, tonight we're gonna watch Scary Movie. Do you want to watch it?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'll watch it at some other point." I would hear you guys chuckling like some hard belly laughs, man.
Oh, we were laughing our asses off.
Yeah.
Because they were nonstop. I mean, they were like rapid fire jokes left
Mm-hmm.
and right, both visual and verbal. The one problem I did have with this that we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of contemporary pop culture references made
Mm-hmm.
that someone who's maybe 15, 16, 17 year olds, now,
Yeah.
they wouldn't get.
Yeah.
And there is quite a few, and I'm sure there was even one. I mean, this was made for my generation.
Mm-hmm.
And there was jokes in there that people just didn't get. I got them.
Yeah.
Like, for example, this is going to go way over your head, but for those of you out there who are my age, you'll know what I'm talking about. The principal.
Yeah.
This one actor, I forgot his name.
Yeah. Something like that.
And his name is Principal Squigman.
Oh, there you go.
And he has the hair with a little curl all greased up.
Yeah.
Well, Squigman, he played a character named Squiggy in a 70s TV show that was a spinoff of a show called Happy Days. It was called Laverne and Shirley. So he was on that show.
Got it.
And he worked at a brewery called Shots.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at that scene in Scary Movie, it's Principal Squigman, as in Squiggy.
Uh-huh.
And on the wall, there's a poster for a beer called Shots Beer. And it even furthers it because he's the principal. Well, in Scream, the principal was played by Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz on a show called Happy Days, which was a spun off the other show. So that was a little inside joke there, but you can see where some of these...
I didn't get that at all.
Yeah.
Something that I did catch where I was like, okay, some people might not get this when the whole beauty pageant is going on.
Right.
And the boyfriend is up top on the little balcony sort of thing, and he's saying, do the Baywatch thing.
You're right.
I was like, okay, I get that.
Well,
but, somebody else,
Oh, I think every teenager across the board was into Baywatch.
Yeah, probably.
With the volume off.
Yeah.
Right. But what I love about this, and I think it was probably the end of that era, was it was just unfiltered, unhindered, and hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't held back by any PC notions or, this is not right. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's called comedy. In the original script, did you know that they featured a cameo for Jamie Lee Curtis?
Really?
Laurie Strode from Halloween. And she would find out, basically it would be that she was a killer hiding in a closet or something like that. Unfortunately, it never made it through. Yeah. But that would have been
pretty cool.
That would have been a great cameo. Also, they had a lot of visual gags in the background that you catch. Like, for example, I don't know if you remember when they're in the lunch room in high school.
Yeah.
The menu, it says same old shit on the menu top. And remember the Miss Cindy sequence, Mr. Man?
Uh-huh.
That whole testicle.
Yeah,
that was horrible. I mean, it made me just...
Sometimes you could do something you're not proud of to get the upper edge of the competition. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that whole sequence with Miss Cindy Man was... it's a female gym teacher with testicles. It's
pretty funny, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, it was just hilarious. Well, when you watch that scene, she's, talking to, one of the students.
Yeah.
In the background, she has a Nazi uniform hanging on the wall.
Uh-huh. I thought it was just a regular uniform.
It's a
Nazi uniform.
It's a Nazi fucking uniform. It's out of left field, And also in the opening scene, there's a movie poster of Scream that can be seen in front of near the door of Drew's house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Drew is played by Carmen Electra. She's the one who gets stabbed at the beginning.
Yeah.
Her character's name is Drew, as in Drew Barrymore, who played the original victim in Scream. And so, and also, the name of the high school is Corpse High.
Yeah. That I did catch.
And I love it because they don't mention it.
And it's just there.
It's there for you to catch if you can.
I don't know if you got this. I was rewatching it and I was like, that's kind of funny. What was the name of the reporter? Gail, right?
Gail Storm.
Do you know how many times they changed her name? A couple. It was Gail Thunderstorm.
Oh, shit.
Gail Hailstorm.
Oh, man.
And those are the only two that I caught What was the name of the original lady from the original Scream?
I can't remember.
Gail Weathers.
Oh,
So
shit.
I was watching. I was like, that's clever. That's
Oh,
funny, man.
I like that. That's pretty cool. I didn't catch that one.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. These films, you know, this one is so chock full of little
things,
little tidbits here and there. You know, what was the original? Okay, the name of the film is Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Well, that was the original working title for Scream. And they decided, okay, Scary Movie. Now let's just call it Scream. So that title hung around and it existed. And so that being the fact that how were they able to get away with directly making a parody of Scream without getting sued?
Mm-hmm.
Well, same studio.
Oh.
Dimension Studios did both. So they were able to get away with a fuck ton of jokes and imagery.
Well, not only that, if you watch the cafeteria scene, the whole conversation that Cindy and her boyfriend are having, it's pretty fucking close. Like I saw a side by side a couple weeks ago, and it's pretty fucking close, and it's trippy to look at.
Wow.
Not only that, they just name drop Scream as well. Shorty is in the cafeteria as well. He's like, "Damn, this all looks so familiar, son."
You're right.
It's like that movie Scream.
Well, they were able to get away
right
with
there.
it. They owned the rights, so they went on.
Yeah.
And that was brilliant. I think that was cool. I think that's one of the first times the studio parodied one of their own films like that.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. The film did really, really well. The budget on this was about $19 million at the time, which is about $33 million today, which is your low end, high end kind of production.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's not, I think it's typical for a small film like that.
Yeah.
The box office was about $278 million, which is about $492 million today.
Yeah, still big bucks.
It was a massive, massive hit. Now, here we go. Roger Ebert. I love this guy because he surprises the hell out of me. Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film, take a guess. Now, he was a prude, but sometimes,
Sometimes, because I know he did like a pretty good review for like a couple of weeks ago, 2012.
Right, which was surprising.
Yeah. I'm going to go 3.5.
He gave it 3 out of 4 stars.
I was being generous. Yeah.
And basically, he said that the film delivered the goods, and he called it a raucous satirical attack on slasher films, which I think it was his way of getting back because he hated the slasher films.
Mm-hmm.
In the 80s, he hated Halloween, Friday the 13th, Slumber Party, and all those kind of films, Sleepaway Camp. He hated those films with a passion.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't stand them. So I think this is his way of going, okay, this is how stupid these movies are, and finally somebody's saying it. So he gave it a pretty good review. Cinema score, audience survey, B-.
Okay.
It's sitting at a 6.2 over at IMDb. Metacritic has it at about a 48%. Rotten Tomatoes, critic score is about 51%, audience score 43%, and Letterboxd has it at about a 3.5. So it was very well received.
Yeah.
Critically and box office wise. Again, thinking about this film and looking back on it, this is one that will never get made today, unfortunately.
No.
I think that today's current socio-political points of views really hinder the creative process of film.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this proper? Is this not? Should we say this?
Can we say that?
Yeah, and the biggest victim is comedy.
Yeah.
Because comedy is about being able to laugh at ourselves, and people are so fucking stupid nowadays they can't laugh at themselves anymore.
No.
And it's a shame. It really is. And it also, one thing that was great about it did bring back the spoof film for a while for a new generation. I think the film was a bit too silly for its own good, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. A lot of fun to watch, rewatch it, you get a little bit more of the jokes.
Yeah, it's one of those films that the more you watch, the more you catch.
Yeah.
Sequels. This thing spun out 1, 2, 4 sequels.
Yeah.
Scary Movie 2 in 2001. Then there was Scary Movie 3, 4, 5 in 2013. And they got less funnier every time.
Yeah. That I'll agree on. That's a fair statement.
Yeah. So my rating on this film, it's really hilarious. It's funny. It's got the jokes flying at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It kind of slows down into like halfway through the second act. It starts to slow down with the laughs. So it's almost like they piled everything up in the first and 1.5 parts of the film.
Yeah.
And it kind of peters out a bit. It kind of, it's still funny, but it doesn't have you laugh out loud, laughing your ass off.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Again, it was a bit too silly for its own good sometimes, but my score on it is a 7 out of 10 Igors.
Yeah. See, my whole thing is I can't put it higher than Airplane. It's not a better movie than Airplane, but it is still really funny. A lot of the jokes were very well delivered, and it did kind of slow down towards the end. And I feel like I try to have a typical movie conclusion.
Right.
So have everything circle out, finish, and not be as funny towards the third half of the third.
Right, the third act.
Yeah, there
right.
we go. English is hard. The third act of the movie. So it kind of did, slow down a little bit. That's why, I got to give it a 7.5. Still really funny, not funnier than Airplane.
All right. Sounds good. So that's 7.5
7.5
Igors.
Igors.
And 7 from me. All right. And if you like these kind of films, here's some further recommendations. Some great stuff. Top Secret, which also is by the same guys who did Airplane. Stars Val Kilmer. It's a World War II mission spy thriller kind of thing. I thought it was hilarious. It's a really good one. You have the Naked Gun series with Leslie Nielsen, also from Airplane. Police Academy, great films.
Funny.
I don't know if it's really a parody.
It's not, which is why we originally had Police Academy as one of the movies for here, and I told you, is it a parody movie? Because I don't know what it parodies. Like, if I ask you, and you were like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
But funny, man.
Yeah, I mean,
funny fucking movie.
It's one that, just like Airplane, does not get old. You want to have a good time one night just watching funny stuff. Airplane and Police Academy back to back.
Yeah.
Another one is Spaceballs.
Oh, funny. So funny.
Directed by Mel
Brooks. Yeah, man.
Great stuff. Robin Hood Men in Tights. Also,
We're men in tights.
Oh, man. That was also directed by Mel Brooks. And then you have Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2. And those parody the Top Gun movies, Rambo. Really good stuff. I think those are all top candidates for fun popcorn-filled night of laughter.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. So pretty much, I think that brings us towards the end of this episode. Tune in next week where we have a big episode. And we will see you next week when we travel to a galaxy far, far away. That's right. We're doing the Star Wars films. We're doing Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, baby.
So there's a lot to be said about those 3 films. Now, you notice I didn't say Star Wars Episode 1 or Star Wars A New Hope, Star Wars, The Empire episode. No, this is how they were released under those titles. Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And because that's what I think it's all about, those 3 amazing films. So any parting words before we close this one out?
Abby
normal?
I gotta say, man, if you have to watch one of these movies, Young Frankenstein, man, go watch that. Do yourself a favor.
It is top of the list.
Top of the list. Top tier.
All right. So, well, we hope you enjoyed our episode, and we hope you tune in next week for the Star Wars episode. So please help to support the pod by giving us a nice, favorable review on Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Another way you can simply support us is basically just subscribe and follow us on Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Audible, Boomplay, or wherever you get your podcast fix. And again, remember, we're not monetized. We don't ask for donations or anything like that. This is all out of pocket from ourselves. We do it because we love to have fun and we enjoy talking film. All we ask is you listen and enjoy. Also, don't forget to drop by our Facebook group and leave a comment. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and our YouTube group channel. All these links, they're in our show notes. You can contact us also directly via email to theFilmjoePod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Get your complaints, your feedback, whatever you want to say. And I think that's about it, right?
That is about it.
All right. So I'm Joe.
I'm Carlos.
And this is the Film Joe Podcast.
where film talk happens.